Folks, we got a big show with a lot of woodworking information, so let's get right into this episode of After Hours Woodworking. I'm your host, Chad Stanton, and on this show, I talk about the projects that I have going in my shop as a professional furniture maker. I answer viewer email questions from you on woodworking, and I like to do a segment that is like a product suggestion for you to have in your shop. Okay, well, first things first, I want to start off on a personal note. Last Wednesday's episode, where I had mentioned about my friend Les passing, I had so many comments from you all, and then on top of the comments, I've got a lot of emails from you all, and they were so kind and so thoughtful. Really helped a lot. So I can't thank you folks enough for your kind words and for keeping myself and Dennis and Les's family in your thoughts. It really touched my heart, and I'm proud to be part of this wonderful community of good folks and woodworkers. So again, thank you. Okay, so a few things I got going in the shop. This week I managed to finish up 10 tabletops for a small local pub that's going to be opening. They should be opening in December, so they're coming up close to it. So those are done. Those are going out the door, and I'll actually have a video on those at some point. Let's see, I also I did a bed frame. I did a bed frame last week. I got that done, got the video posted. That was Friday's video. If you didn't see that, I'll put a link in the bottom. I also had a customer who wanted a coffee table. Now, if you follow me on Facebook and Instagram, you've probably seen this project a few times. It's a coffee table with an old pinball machine in it. It turns out that there is a club, actually a museum, not far from my house here up in Michigan, and they're pinball fanatics. And the one guy had these playing fields and couldn't rebuild them. They was just too far gone, but he could get like the lights working on them and things all cleaned up. And he got the idea for coffee tables, came to me, I built one, and boom, now the members in the club have me building them, and they sell them online, I guess. So it's turned out to be a good little thing. I think I've done 5 or 6 so far in the past year. He picked up the one and dropped off another pinball, so I'll be making another coffee table out of it. Pretty much all the coffee table designs are the same. This next one will be a little different in color. But I'll have a video for that on this coming Friday if you're curious to see how it's built. And, maybe you don't have any interest putting a pinball machine in your coffee table. That's fine. The coffee table is actually an easy enough build that you could just go with solid wood on the top, and it would still be a nice looking coffee table. So this past Sunday was the Ohio Tool Collectors Association. They had their little meeting, and in the meeting afterwards, or actually before the meeting, they had like a tool swap, so a couple of little dealers around there will set up tables and sell some tools. And of course, you know me, I can't refuse to go look at some tools. I picked up four little tools. The one that really caught my eye was this sweet looking little Coachmakers plane. And I've got several different Coachmakers plane, but this one I liked quite a bit. Has a little arch on there. Actually, I have a feeling I probably will be using this from time to time. But didn't cost much. I picked this one up for $20 and just another one for the collection. But Sunday was also, as you know, Veterans Day. And so when I was there, of course, a lot of these folks are old timers, so I got to meet and talk to some vets there. But I want to point out a couple of neat things that came about from the show, And I'm surprised. This show, you know, you guys follow the show. If you look at my numbers, they're not big numbers. But it's really done some really good stuff. So let me tell you the story. Back in April, Woodcraft had their vendor trade show. It's kind of closed doors to the public. It's just for the different vendors. And so I was invited to that. And when I was there, I met Rob Cosman. Well, we've met before, but I mean, I actually had time to sit down and talk with him. And Rob has this nonprofit organization that he has running, the Purple Heart Project, where he takes vets that have that post-traumatic disorder. Essentially, you know, take vets that are having trouble coping with life, whether it's stress or depression. They're just having some anxieties. And what he does is he flies in a group of them twice a year, flies them into Canada there, or I think it was Niagara Falls. And for a week solid, he teaches them woodworking. I'm talking from the crack of dawn until like 11 o'clock at night. They do it all week long. He gives them a place to stay, and then when it's done, after they've learned all this technique, he sends them home with about $2,000 worth of tools so that they can continue doing this woodworking as their therapy, and it really produces great results. Now, obviously, Rob has had to dip into his own pockets from time to time to fund this. If you would like to make a donation, I'll have a link at the bottom, because that is really how Rob keeps this program going. And I know Woodcraft is a huge supporter of it. But what was neat was one of the fellas that was in Rob's last session, again, he only does this twice a year, he had never heard about this, but he heard about it on this show from that video I did back in April. So he reached out to Rob, and of course Rob has a screening process he got to go through, and he qualified, and he went out there and finished up his week. And there's a link in the video. I'm encouraging you all to look at this link, because it was Jade Sharrox who does a little segment with Rob, and Jade explains how he's doing better because of woodworking. It's a great little video. If you got time, please check it out. So thank you, Rob, for all that you're doing. With that being said, I also got an email from Doc McLaurin, and Doc, too, has been spending some time helping with the vets, and he wanted me to share with you this phone app from Timestamp. Now, look, I'm terrible at these things. The fewer apps, the better. To me, they're nonsense. But this sounds like a good one to help vets with that post-traumatic disorder that they have going on. What it does is it combines photos, their story, and even little videos that they can share. Now, maybe they're sharing it with family or other people who are going through a hard time. But it's a quick, fast way that they can connect with people and relate their stories. So I will put that link also in the description. So some really good stuff there for our vets. And if you would like to contribute and help in some way, I'm sure the vets will truly appreciate anything you can do for them. Okay, let's move on now to some viewer email. The first question comes from Bill Crispin, and Bill is building some cabinet doors, and he has solid wood panels in them. And he was wondering, how much space do you leave for the panel to expand and contract? And are there products that help with that? Okay, so I have a little prop here. This is just a drawer front that actually I need to attach to my cabinets. Anyhow, it's got a solid maple panel in it, and if I was building this, it depends on the time of year that I'm building. If I'm building now, as I'm coming into winter, I know this is going to shrink, and it's going to be soon at its smallest point. There's going to be hardly any moisture in it. So if that's the case, I'm going to leave a heavy 1/8 inch in there for this to expand and contract. If it's summertime, if it's the middle of summer where it's really hot and humid, I know this thing is going to swell, the wood is going to be swollen, and so at that point, I'll leave very little, maybe less than a 1/16. Is that perfect? No. I mean, you can still have problems. I, luckily, have not had one crack on me, but that doesn't matter. Dennis, who's been doing it for over 60 years, he did a set of cabinets for a kitchen the one time, and sure enough, they all split at the stiles and rails connection because he didn't leave enough room for the panels to expand. So that's kind of just a ballpark that I go with. It doesn't hurt, too, if you have a moisture meter to check the wood to make sure that the moisture content is down on it as well. Now, Bill's second question was, well, what do you do, because you make it smaller, what do you do to keep it from moving and rattling? And rattling is the big one, because on cabinet doors, when they open and close it, then bang, you usually hear that rattle. So there's, I think the product's called Space Balls, I think. And what it is, it's just a little rubber ball that goes into the groove of the stiles and rails, and it allows that wood to expand and contract because that rubber ball will compress, and it keeps tension on the wood so there's no rattling. You can buy those and use them. I think Woodcraft sells them. I have a simpler version of what I do. When I put it in, I find the center, and then with the 23 gauge pinner, nail gun, on the back side of the cabinet, I'll put one pin at the top and one pin at the bottom with the panel centered. What that does is it allows the wood on the ends to expand, and if that pin has to, it can flex a little. So I just do one, and the one keeps it from rattling. So that's my solution. Here's the last tip I want to tell you. If you're going to stain or paint your panels, do that before you assemble the whole thing. So what I usually do is I'll stain the panel, then glue it all up, and if I have to sand the stiles and rails, I'll do that. But I make sure the panel is done, because this is the problem I've had. If that panel shrinks, well, now you see the stain or the paint that you didn't quite get to because you stained it all together. So that's my last tip on that. Hope that answers your questions there, Bill, on cabinet panels. The next question comes from Johnny R. And Johnny says he thinks he needs to own a surface planer. Do I recommend that for a shop as an important tool? Yes, and I guess in a nutshell, any tool can be an important tool in your shop if it helps you do the job faster and more accurate. But it's not high on my list. Now, I don't know where Johnny's at on his collection of tools, but for me, the ranking order would be table saw, miter saw, the router table, band saw, the joiner, surface planer, and then drill press. That's the order I would go for my power tools. And as you can tell, the surface planer was down on the list. And as I always tell folks, don't go in debt for your tools. So if you have $200 to buy a surface planer, don't buy a $500 one. If you have $200, don't buy a $75 one. Buy the best you can for what you got. And if you find in the future you want to upgrade to that $500 surface planer, sell your old one, take that money, add it to what you've saved, and buy your next one. Always be wise with spending money on your tools. So hope that helps you some, Johnny. If you got any more questions on it, give me an email back. The last question for this week comes from Karen Corrigan. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think Karen and her husband are up there in Alaska, and they just bought their first house, so that's quite exciting. And she said she wants to build a potato bin, and she wanted to know what woods to use for that and what finish for it. So as far as woods go, I would probably stay with like a fruit wood. You could go with a cherry, maple is fine, white oak would be good for it. I wouldn't use red oak. It's too porous, so you wouldn't want bacteria. And like if your potato started to rot, you wouldn't want that to get down into the pores of it and such. A dense wood. I wouldn't go with any woods that would have like a nut to it, like walnut. Some people are allergic to nuts, and that wouldn't be good for them. And also, too, I'd stay away from any exotic woods. Sometimes something with the oils may not be good for the wood or for the food. As far as the finish goes, okay, this is a interesting topic because I hear it said all the time that any finish when it's 100% cured is food safe. But if you were going to put a finish on it, I would go with a water-based finish, because being in that bin, if you use an oil-based one, those vapors are really going to linger around in there for a long time. And I don't know about you, I just don't like the idea of those chemicals around my food. So if I was to put a finish on it, I'd probably go with a water-based one. But honestly, I don't think I would put any finish in it at all if it was mine. So do what you will. It seems like there's no right or wrong with it. Curious to see how it looks. Make sure you send us your pictures on that. And so since we're talking about finish, that's going to come to our segment now on Should You Own It? Okay, this is a product you've heard me talk about several times. I've been working with it now for a few months, and I'm ready to give you my honest opinion on it. And that is CrystaLac's Stain and Finish. Now, there are pros and cons to everything, and I'm going to tell you what I ran into, and you can decide if this is for you or not. The government is cracking down on the VOCs, so what that means is it's getting harder to get some of our traditional finishes and stains that we used to that were oil-based. The CrystaLac product is a water-based product. So one of the upsides to this is that it's going to clean up for me very easy. A little soap and water, and boom, I'm done. I don't have to mess with mineral spirits or denatured alcohol on stuff or lacquer thinner for some of the products. I don't have to worry about those chemicals getting on me. I don't have to worry about disposing of those chemicals. I can just clean this stuff up right in the sink, and I'm good to go. One of the drawbacks to this is they're a mom and pop store, which is good, which I like to support. I'm self-employed, my wife's self-employed, my brother's self-employed, a lot of my friends are self-employed, so I like to support smaller companies if I can. And I can get online and I can find their stains and finishes and they can ship it to me. The downside, though, is because they're small, you're not going to be able to walk into a Home Depot or a Lowe's and, pull a color off the shelf and go home with it. It's not going to happen. So what that means is you have to do a little bit of planning ahead of time. If you're starting your project, as you're getting your material and your fasteners and maybe tools, whatever you're doing, start thinking about your finish for it. And then you can go ahead and choose your color and finish and order it online. They'll ship it right to you. The other thing is, and again, pro or con to this, You walk into the big box store, you go up to the selection of stains, and I'm just going to use Minwax. I'm not throwing Minwax under the bus or nothing. I'm just using them because they're in just about any store I go into. And so you go up and they got 100 colors there, and I look at the can and go, well, that looks pretty nice. I think I'll take that home. And you go home with it, and let's say you put it on pine, and it's lighter than what the color on the can is. You put it on oak, it might be darker than the color you want. Let's say you put it on poplar and it's perfect. All right? So you're kind of a little bit guessing with it depending on the wood. So with CrystaLac stain, you can go online. They have colors, but they don't have a huge selection. And I could be wrong on this. I might be misquoting. I think there's like 12 or 16 of the common colors. You know, the common colors that we all use: golden oak, dark walnut, mahogany, all the basic colors there. But one like this one, which was a color my customer requested and specifically said they wanted Minwax English chestnut, CrystaLac didn't have it. But I will say, CrystaLac, because they're small, they can't have 100 of those sitting around and stuff. They came up with a very clever way of dealing with it. They have a dye kit that you can buy, or you can buy the individual dye colors and you can mix your own. So they have on their website a recipe for up to 36 different colors now. And based on the color, like here's American maple, and it tells you the exact quantities and the color of dye that you want to make American maple. Again, unfortunately, they didn't have English chestnut. So if I wanted to make my own English chestnut, I couldn't buy number 2, number 3, number 6 for that and mix it. So I do have the luxury of having their kit. I got 2, 4, 6, 8 highly concentrated dyes. And what I did was I mixed it up till I got the color that looked good in the cup, and then I put it on the wood. Now, second, not problem, concern. Something, again, just have to learn to adapt with this. When I put the CrystaLac stain on, when it was wet, it looked great. But then as it dried, it got lighter. So I had to put a second coat on. Now, that's good for 2 reasons. If you have the issue, like with the Minwax, where you put it on the pine and you're like, oh, darn it, it's not the same color. You can try to put more on, but odds are you're done. All right? With the CrystaLac, you can keep putting layers on, and you can build it up to that density that you want. That is cool, and that comes in really handy for me when I'm doing my cabinet cut downs and I have to reshape it. I just need a little bit of dye. I mix it up. I keep building up the layers till it's perfect. The customer never knows. A little bit of a drawback, though, if I'm doing a big project. That means instead of putting 1 coat of stain on it, I might have to do 2 or 3 to get to the color that I want, which means I'm using more product. You know, it's you got to pick your battle here. I can buy the color out of the can, and I may or may not get it exactly, or I can use a CrystaLac stain and have to maybe apply several coats to get it to where I want. So again, it depends on you, the woodworker, on what you prefer doing. All right, so that's the stains. For the top coat, the finish, I've been using here the Extreme Protection clear satin polyurethane. I've been spraying it, and it lays down really nice. It's smooth, it dries fairly quick, a lot quicker than any oil-based, so I can get multiple coats on in a day. The other cool thing about it is you don't have to sand in between coats like you normally do with polyurethane. You can keep putting layer and layer on top of each one. So that saves a little step involved there. So far, I'm happy with the results and how things are looking with it. Customers have liked it. Now, I will say the true test is coming up with this, because I did those tabletops with this on it. I did 5 coats, 4 of the polyurethane and 1 of their sanding sealer, and they're going to get a lot of abuse in a restaurant. A lot of customers, hot plates, cold, wet drinks on them, busboys hurrying to get dishes on and off. So we're going to see how it holds up. That'll be the final test for me that will have me sold or not. But overall, I like the product. Now, where can you get it? You can get it from CrystaLac. You can go CrystaLac online there and go right to their website. And you can, again, you can see everything, the stains, the recipe, the dye kit. They got a whole bunch of stuff, grain filler, a whole bunch of stuff. Or you can go to McFeely's. They supply it too, and you can order it from them. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, well, Chad, I'm just going to go to CrystaLac and get it. Well, here's the thing. The price is the same for both. So you're not getting anything cheaper over at CrystaLac that you wouldn't get from McFeely's. And if you're planning ahead, right from the beginning of your project, if you're planning ahead to get your finish, you should be checking to make sure you got enough screws and fasteners from them. And if I don't know what the magic number is, but when you order a certain amount from McFeely's, the shipping's free. So, there you go. You can do all your shopping there and have it sent to you. Last point, and again, people are going to be like, oh, Chad, I can go to Home Depot and I can get the Minwax polyurethane and it's cheaper and faster. Yeah, you can. You know what? You can. This costs a little bit more, but it's a better product, So it's up to you. Again, I like to support the small companies if I can, and CrystaLac and McFeely's, they're good people with a good product. So anyway, that's enough on that. One last thing. Because there is a learning curve for me using water-based products, because I've always been using oil for so long, I'm constantly calling over at CrystaLac and asking questions on something to help them troubleshoot me or help them work with me through the project. Very helpful folks. And I got the idea, why not do a small segment from time to time with common finish questions, and the rep over there, David Shepard, will answer your questions for you right here on this show. So it'll just be a small segment that we'll do with it. So keep that in mind. Put some comments below there if you would like to see some of that. Okay, so that just about wraps it up. I want to tell you about a couple of upcoming videos that we'll be doing. My buddy Mitch Peacock over there in the UK, we have been wanting to collaborate on a project for a long time, and we decided we're going to do a little nightstand together. And both him and I kind of prefer the nightstand with a little bit of an Asian feel to it. And it's funny, Mitch did the design, sent it to me, what do you think? And I had pencil sketched one out, and it was very, very similar. I would probably say, my sketch matched his about 80%. So we went back and forth, and we kind of tweaked a few things. And anyway, so this is the concept that we've come up with. And I started asking Mitch, whoa, wait a second, we might like the look of that, but this show is really about what you all want to see. So we were wondering, is that something you're interested in seeing how it's built? There's going to be some interesting joinery. We're still working out some of the little things on the joinery. Is this something you want to see? Would you like to see it a little bit slightly different style? Would you like to see more arts and craft, or maybe more like a Danish modern look to it? Is this pleasing to your eyes? So go ahead again, leave your comments below. Mitch and myself will be reading them and reevaluating, or maybe just going right ahead with it. And it should be a fun project because Mitch is going to do a little, and then I'll do a little, and you'll have to watch both our shows. Yes, we're going to do that to you. You're going to have to watch both shows to actually watch the full build. But I think it's a great idea because when it's done, there's going to be 2 exact tables just in different parts of the world. Kind of cool. All right, so that'll be coming up. Not sure when we're putting that together, but look for that. Hopefully kind of soon. But as far as this Friday's video, it's going to be that coffee table with the pinball machine in it. Be one of those fast build videos and that, but you'll get the idea. It's a pretty easy build. Whew. All right, there it is. That was a lot of info to jam into this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you have an email question, feel free to write me at woodchoppingtime@gmail.com. And of course, as always, keep on dancing.